The Intergalactic Empire, a colossal force that had dominated numerous worlds across the galaxy, shifted its focus to Earth. With their superior technology, firepower, and a history of countless victories, the Empire viewed Earth's conquest as just another routine mission. Earth, regarded by them as a relatively primitive planet, was considered a minor obstacle that would be crushed with minimal effort. The Empire's military leaders had executed similar invasions dozens of times before invade, overwhelm local defenses, and assimilate the planet into their vast dominion. They expected Earth to succumb in the same fashion. The invasion plan was simple: overpower the humans with superior forces, target critical locations, and quickly force a surrender. Confident in their strategy, the Empire's commanders prepared for what they believed would be a swift victory. They had scouted Earth, identified major cities, and mapped out military bases, power plants, and other vital infrastructures. Armed with knowledge and vast resources, the plan seemed flawless. The Empire was accustomed to other species surrendering once their cities were bombarded, defenses destroyed, and leaders pressured into negotiation. It was a formula that had consistently worked, and they expected the same result here, underestimating humanity's capacity for resistance. As the invasion commenced, the Empire's fleets descended upon Earth with overwhelming force. Massive ships darkened the skies over major cities, and within hours, coordinated strikes crippled Earth's military infrastructure. Bombardments shook the ground, and strategic positions fell like dominoes. Alien ground forces quickly secured key positions, facing little resistance. Earth's military, with its outdated technology and conventional defenses, stood no match for the Empire's superior might. Alien troops swarmed the cities, and it appeared that Earth would soon fall entirely under the Empire's control. Yet, something unexpected occurred. Just as the Empire's commanders prepared to broadcast a demand for Earth's unconditional surrender, they were met with silence. No human leaders emerged to negotiate terms. Instead of surrendering, human forces scattered into smaller, more mobile guerrilla units. Both civilians and soldiers withdrew from the front lines, vanishing into forests, mountains, and the ruins of bombed cities. It wasn't the capitulation the Empire had anticipated. Confused, the commanders questioned why the humans hadn't surrendered and where the formal negotiations were. Other species had submitted in the face of such overwhelming force, but the humans were not following the script. As days passed, alien forces encountered pockets of fierce resistance. Human guerrilla units, though scattered, were not defeated. They launched ambushes on alien patrols, sabotaged supply lines, and destroyed alien equipment. Though technologically outmatched, the humans fought with a level of ingenuity and persistence that surprised the Empire. Alien commanders, who had expected to be consolidating their victory by now, found themselves dealing with constant disruptions. Supply lines were attacked, vehicles destroyed by improvised explosives, and alien forces harassed by hit-and-run tactics. The Empire's military, trained for organized, structured battles, struggled to adapt to the chaos of human resistance. Human fighters operated in small, independent cells, striking where least expected. Alien commanders, used to enemies who would either surrender or retreat in an orderly manner once defeated, were baffled by the humans' defiance. Even when human forces were surrounded or outnumbered, they refused to surrender, fighting to the last. The Empire's victories were costly, and even in seemingly secure areas, more resistance fighters would emerge, continuing the fight. The Empire declared several victories, announcing the capture of major cities and military bases to their leaders back home. But even in these secured zones, human resistance remained unrelenting. Stranded human soldiers, often collaborating with civilians, continued the battle. Entire towns transformed into makeshift fortresses, with civilians setting traps and launching small-scale attacks on alien convoys. Every time the alien forces thought they had eliminated a resistance group, another would rise in its place. Alien commanders, growing increasingly frustrated, couldn't understand why the humans wouldn't admit defeat. The humans' fighting style puzzled the aliens. It was disorganized, seemingly chaotic, and didn't adhere to the rules of warfare the Empire had come to expect. However, there was a method to the madness. Human resistance groups communicated in ways the Empire's advanced technology couldn't easily intercept. They knew the terrain intimately, using forests, mountains, and urban ruins to their advantage. The planet's harsh weather, which would typically hinder invaders, only seemed to strengthen human resolve. Alien commanders began to experience true frustration. Their armies were being bled slowly, not in grand battles, but through countless small skirmishes. Human forces attacked at night, sabotaged alien equipment, and used psychological tactics to instill fear in the Empire's troops. What baffled the Empire even more was the sheer variety of human resistance. Every time they thought they had wiped out one group, another would rise, employing different tactics and strategies. The alien forces were being worn down, not through superior firepower, but sheer persistence. The Empire's early victories, which initially seemed to signal the end for humanity, were now overshadowed by the realization that humans didn't know how to surrender. Unlike other species, they didn't follow the Empire's expectations of defeat. Alien commanders soon recognized that Earth wasn't like other worlds they had conquered. The humans were not going to give up. They were going to continue fighting, no matter the damage to their cities or how hopeless the situation seemed. For the first time in the Empire's history of conquest, they were facing an enemy that simply wouldn't submit. Despite losing their major cities and military infrastructure, the humans showed no signs of giving in. Rather than organizing a formal surrender, they vanished from the devastated urban centers and took refuge in the wilderness, hiding in forests, mountains, and underground bunkers. The alien commanders, used to formalize battles and surrender procedures, were left baffled. They had expected the remaining human forces to surrender after suffering such heavy losses, but instead, the humans seemed to disappear, only to reappear in small groups, launching coordinated strikes. The Empire attempted to enforce its usual protocol, sending demands for surrender to the scattered human populations. These messages were either ignored or met with attacks. When alien commanders attempted to negotiate with local human leaders, guerrilla fighters often ambushed the meetings. The Empire couldn't comprehend why no clear leadership emerged to formally surrender. Other species had always capitulated once their major cities were taken, but the humans defied these patterns. To the aliens, it seemed as though humans didn't understand the concept of surrender. The Empire, which had prided itself on overpowering its enemies through sheer force, was unprepared for this kind of resistance. As the days turned into weeks, the alien forces witnessed human creativity in warfare. Deprived of the technology to match the Empire's firepower, humans began using their environment and scavenged materials to fight back. They repurposed pieces of destroyed alien technology, turning them into traps, bombs, and improvised weapons. Human forces created ambushes in forests and urban ruins, using homemade explosives and clever tactics to strike alien convoys. They would hit quickly, inflicting as much damage as possible, and then retreat before the Empire could respond effectively. These guerrilla tactics confused the alien soldiers, who were trained for conventional warfare and had no experience dealing with such disorganized, yet highly effective assaults. One particular ambush became legendary among the human fighters. A convoy of alien troops was moving through a mountainous region, expecting no resistance. Instead, they were ambushed by a force of human civilians and soldiers who had spent weeks preparing the landscape. The humans had planted traps made from scavenged alien parts, used the natural terrain to their advantage, and even lured some of the aliens into an avalanche. The alien troops were stunned by the humans' resourcefulness, especially given their lack of access to high-tech weaponry. Despite their superior technology, the alien forces struggled to anticipate or counter these unpredictable attacks. While the Empire relied on scanners, drones, and advanced sensors, human fighters knew how to move undetected through the terrain. Earth's varied environments, jungles, deserts, mountains, and urban wastelands became natural fortresses for the human defenders. The Empire's forces, unfamiliar with Earth's ecosystems and weather patterns, found themselves at a disadvantage. Alien soldiers, who struggled in Earth's unpredictable climate, faced opponents who had adapted to these conditions and used them to their advantage. The humans moved under the cover of storms, used natural landmarks for concealment, and sabotaged alien equipment with precise knowledge of local conditions. Earth itself became a tool in the human resistance, and the alien invaders, who had considered themselves untouchable, began to suffer severe losses. Despite their initial success in capturing key locations, the Empire was losing significant numbers of troops to these guerrilla attacks. Alien morale began to drop as entire divisions were picked off by invisible human forces. Alien commanders, who had once believed their advanced technology would guarantee easy victory, found themselves outwitted by human ingenuity. Their scanners couldn't predict where the next ambush would strike, and their drones struggled to detect human fighters hiding in dense forests and underground bunkers. It became clear that the Empire's advanced technology, while formidable, wasn't enough to handle the humans' decentralized and adaptive tactics. As alien losses mounted, the commanders attempted to escalate their military response, believing that overwhelming firepower would finally crush the human resistance. But their heavy-handed tactics only enraged the human population further. Villages and neighborhoods that had been razed by alien forces became rallying points for even more resistance fighters. Each act of destruction committed by the Empire strengthened the humans' resolve. For every village that was burned, a dozen new resistance cells formed, filled with civilians determined to fight for survival and revenge. Alien soldiers, frustrated by the lack of progress, resorted to harsher measures in an attempt to subdue the humans. However, these brutal tactics backfired. The more homes the Empire destroyed and the more civilians they killed, the more determined the humans became. Alien commanders, who had hoped to break human morale by targeting civilian populations, were stunned when their actions had the opposite effect. Instead of crushing the human spirit, the Empire's attacks only galvanized the resistance. Human fighters became more coordinated, and even those with no prior combat experience took up arms. The war had turned into a fight for survival, and the humans showed no signs of backing down. The Empire, which had always relied on advanced technology and overwhelming firepower to subdue other species, was now facing an enemy that couldn't be defeated by those means alone. Their traditional tactics were failing, and their troops, trained for conventional warfare, were unprepared for the endless barrage of ambushes, sabotage, and psychological warfare deployed by the humans. Morale among the alien ranks continued to fall as their soldiers, once confident of victory, began to fear every shadow and ruin. The Empire had assumed that humanity would surrender once their major cities were captured, just as other species had. Instead, the humans demonstrated an unparalleled ability to adapt, survive, and fight back, even when outgunned and outmatched. Alien commanders, facing mounting losses and dwindling morale, began to realize that their usual methods of conquest were ineffective against the humans. The humans didn't follow the same rules as other conquered worlds. They fought with a level of creativity and resilience that the Empire had never encountered before. As the Empire struggled to maintain control, it became clear that their invasion of Earth was not going as planned. What they had anticipated to be a quick victory had turned into a drawn-out conflict, one that was testing the limits of their resources and resolve. Despite their losses, the humans were becoming more organized and more determined with each passing day. The Empire, faced with an enemy that refused to surrender and adapted to every challenge, began to see the cracks in its own strategies. With each failed offensive, the Empire was forced to reconsider its approach. However, it was already too late. Growing desperate, the Empire turned to more brutal strategies, targeting vital human strongholds, key infrastructure, and civilian populations. The logic was simple: if they could destroy the cities, starve out the survivors, and obliterate human resources, the remaining fighters would lose the will to continue. Entire towns were leveled by orbital bombardments, agricultural centers annihilated, and power grids knocked offline. The Empire believed that by cutting off these essential lifelines, humanity would finally break and be forced to surrender. But once again, the humans did not react as expected. Instead of cowering under the weight of the attacks, the constant bombardment only seemed to strengthen their resolve. The more cities the aliens destroyed, the more fiercely the humans fought back. The Empire, accustomed to dealing with centralized leadership that could be captured or eliminated, couldn't understand why no human leaders emerged to negotiate. The truth was that there was no central authority left to surrender. Human resistance had fractured into countless independent cells, each operating with the same goal but without the need for centralized command. This decentralized structure made it impossible for the aliens to decapitate the movement or force an end to the conflict. Faced with complete annihilation, humanity embraced total war. Civilians who had never before seen combat took up arms alongside trained soldiers. Farmers, teachers, and scientists all became part of the resistance, using whatever they could find: old hunting rifles, repurposed alien weapons, or even homemade explosives to defend their land. Villages that had been untouched by the initial alien strikes transformed into makeshift fortresses. Children helped build traps, and elderly citizens taught younger fighters survival tactics. It was no longer just about military resistance. Every human saw themselves as part of the fight, contributing in any way they could. Psychological warfare became one of humanity's most powerful weapons. Radio broadcasts and guerrilla communication networks spread false rumors and exaggerated stories of human victories. Resistance groups broadcast messages about alien weaknesses, warning alien soldiers of ambushes that might not even exist, keeping the invaders in a constant state of paranoia. The psychological toll on the alien troops was immense. Stories of human triumphs, real or imagined, instilled hope in the human population and fear in the alien invaders. What had once been a scattered, desperate resistance was becoming a unified force, even without formal leadership. Behind the scenes, human engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to adapt alien technology for their own use. Downed alien ships were scavenged, their parts turned into makeshift weapons and defenses. Alien communication systems were hacked, allowing human resistance fighters to eavesdrop on enemy plans or even disrupt their signals. Human ingenuity, once again, took the Empire by surprise. The aliens had expected humans to be technologically inferior, but they hadn't anticipated the speed at which humans could reverse engineer and repurpose alien technology. It became common for resistance fighters to wield hybrid weapons half human, half alien in their attacks. This ability to adapt and innovate quickly was something the Empire had never faced before. As the human resistance grew stronger, the Empire's soldiers began to experience breakdowns. Accustomed to fighting in clear, organized battles with predictable outcomes, the alien troops were unprepared for the relentless, chaotic attacks they faced from the humans. Entire units were picked off by what the aliens considered untrained fighters, but the humans' unpredictability made them far more dangerous than the Empire had imagined. The Empire's soldiers, used to overwhelming their foes with superior numbers and technology, found themselves constantly outmaneuvered. Their advanced equipment and disciplined tactics couldn't prevent them from falling victim to human creativity and resourcefulness. Human resistance cells, which had once operated in isolation, began to coordinate across greater distances, using captured alien communication technology. They launched coordinated attacks against key installations, striking at the heart of the alien war machine. Alien supply depots were raided, bases sabotaged, and alien leadership targeted. No matter how hard the Empire tried to suppress them, the human resistance grew stronger with each passing day. Even areas the Empire had once considered secure began to fall as humans reclaimed territory, pushing alien forces back. The Empire's leadership, watching from their distant strongholds, was shocked. In every previous conquest, the enemy had surrendered once faced with the overwhelming might of the Empire. But the humans didn't follow the same logic. Even as their cities burned and their populations dwindled, they refused to give in. Alien commanders couldn't comprehend why no human leaders had stepped forward to negotiate terms of surrender. Every other species they had encountered had capitulated once it became clear they couldn't win. But the humans defied all expectations. The human resistance was growing more organized, more determined, and more dangerous with every failed alien offensive. What had once been a chaotic and decentralized uprising was now a coordinated, relentless force. The Empire's leadership began to face the uncomfortable truth humanity's will to resist might be stronger than the Empire's ability to conquer. No matter how much destruction they wrought, the humans kept fighting back. It was as if the humans had no concept of defeat, no protocol for surrender. As the Empire's forces continued to suffer losses, their leadership began to realize that this was not a war they could easily win. Humanity's resilience, creativity, and sheer refusal to give up were unlike anything the Empire had encountered before. The more they tried to force a surrender, the more the humans adapted and fought back. The Empire, which was used to breaking the spirit of its enemies, found that with the humans, it was different. Their spirit wasn't breaking, it was hardening with each new assault. The Empire, once so confident in its superiority, now grappled with the possibility that they had underestimated humanity. What they had thought would be an easy conquest had turned into a drawn-out, bloody conflict with no end in sight. Humanity, despite being outgunned and outnumbered, was winning the war of attrition. The Empire's leaders, watching as their forces were pushed back and their morale crumbled, began to wonder if they were facing a species that couldn't be defeated in the way they had defeated others. Humanity's will to fight, driven by their determination to survive at any cost, was turning the tide of the war. The Empire, which had always relied on advanced technology and overwhelming force to subjugate other species, found that these methods were failing against the humans. Their soldiers, trained for conventional warfare, were unprepared for the relentless barrage of ambushes, sabotage, and psychological warfare deployed by the human resistance. Morale among the alien troops continued to plummet as their soldiers, once confident of victory, began to fear every shadow and ruin. The humans, who had been expected to surrender once their major cities were captured, demonstrated an unparalleled ability to adapt, survive, and continue fighting, even when faced with overwhelming odds. As the Empire struggled to maintain control, it became clear that their invasion of Earth was not going as planned. What they had anticipated as a quick and decisive victory had turned into a long, drawn-out conflict, one that was testing the limits of the Empire's resources and resolve. Despite their losses, the humans were growing stronger and more determined with each passing day. The Empire's commanders, faced with an enemy that refused to surrender and adapted to every challenge, began to see the cracks in their strategies. With every failed offensive, they were forced to reconsider their approach, but by then it was already too late. In a final, desperate bid to end the conflict, the Empire launched an all-out assault on the remaining human strongholds, believing that complete annihilation would finally break their spirits. The alien commanders gathered what remained of their forces and prepared for what they believed would be the decisive blow. The Empire unleashed its most powerful weapons, leveling entire regions, destroying cities, forests, and obliterating anything in their path. From orbit, the alien fleet bombarded Earth with the intent of wiping out every last pocket of resistance. Human casualties were immense and the destruction was widespread, but even as the death toll mounted and the world burned, humanity's resolve did not falter. The survivors, scattered across the planet, refused to give up. There was no central command to decapitate, no single point of failure that the aliens could target. Human forces were fragmented but united in their defiance. The Empire's commanders, watching from their ships, couldn't believe what they were seeing. No matter how much they destroyed, the humans would not submit. As the final phase of the invasion unfolded, the Empire prepared for what they believed would be their last stand. They thought that this battle would break the humans once and for all, but the humans, faced with annihilation, fought with even more ferocity, knowing they had nothing left to lose. In a last-ditch effort, human resistance forces launched one final, desperate counterattack, using every resource at their disposal: hacked alien technology, guerrilla warfare tactics, and sheer determination. They struck back at the heart of the alien invasion in a meticulously coordinated operation. A coalition of human fighters, including civilians, military personnel, and engineers, executed a daring plan. They had managed to reverse engineer some of the Empire's technology, turning the alien weaponry against their invaders. Using hacked communication systems, they created chaos within the alien ranks, sending false signals and confusing the chain of command. At the same time, human guerrilla fighters launched ground assaults on alien bases, striking at supply lines, destroying key installations, and crippling the alien infrastructure on Earth. But the most significant blow came from the skies. Using stolen alien ships and technology, human pilots and engineers orchestrated a surprise attack on the Empire's main fleet. With a combination of guerrilla tactics and sheer willpower, they managed to devastate the alien fleet, inflicting catastrophic damage on the Empire's forces in orbit. The Empire, which had believed itself untouchable in the skies, watched in disbelief as their ships fell one by one to the relentless human counterattack. The humans, who had once seemed outmatched in every way, had turned the tide of the battle in a single coordinated strike. The Empire's leadership, realizing their fatal error, understood that they had underestimated humanity's capacity for survival, adaptation, and resistance. No matter how much they destroyed, the humans had always found a way to fight back. Even when faced with overwhelming force, humanity refused to break. Alien commanders, who had believed that the humans would eventually submit, like every other species the Empire had conquered, were forced to confront the truth: humans simply didn't have a surrender protocol. In the aftermath of the battle, the Empire's forces were in disarray. Their fleet, once thought invincible, had been crippled by a species they had considered primitive. The human resistance, though battered and bruised, stood victorious. Earth, though scarred by months of war, remained unconquered. The Empire's leadership, faced with the reality of their defeat, had no choice but to retreat. They pulled their remaining forces out of Earth's orbit, abandoning the invasion they had once believed was a guaranteed victory. As the alien commanders returned to their homeworlds, they carried with them a warning: humanity was not like any species they had encountered before. Humans didn't follow the same rules of war, didn't break under pressure, and didn't surrender, no matter the odds. The Empire, for all its might and technological superiority, had been defeated by a species whose will to survive was stronger than any force the aliens could muster. In the end, the humans, having fought for every inch of their planet, were left standing. They had been tested to the brink of extinction but had emerged victorious, unbroken by the Empire's relentless assaults. The alien forces, once so confident in their superiority, had been humbled by a species they had grossly underestimated. The lesson was clear: humanity might bend, but it would never break. And for the Empire, the realization that they could never truly conquer humanity was a bitter and undeniable truth.